All right, listen up. This is a Code Ninja Security Advisory. We are tracking an active threat, one with a long and dangerous history. Your immediate attention is required. The threat's codename is Mutagen Astronomy. Now, for those of you who remember the classic 1992 film Sneakers, you'll know the phrase CETEC Astronomy was an anagram for Too Many Secrets. Well, in that same spirit, our codename is an anagram for Too Many Arguments, which, as you'll see, perfectly describes the technical root of this vulnerability. But make no mistake, this is not a game. Okay, so what are we actually dealing with here? We're talking about CVE 2018-14634. At its heart, it's an integer overflow flaw, buried deep inside the Linux kernel. The direct impact? Local Privilege Escalation, or LPE. And in plain English, that means an attacker with just basic user access on your machine can exploit this bug to become a root, giving them complete and total control of the system. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, we need to run a quick security protocol. Think of this as a comms check to make sure you get our future intel drops without any delay. First things first, make sure you are subscribed to CyberTech 79 with all your notifications turned on. Threats move way faster than patches. Our intelligence briefings are your first line of defense, and you need to get them the second they're released. Second, hit that like button. Consider it your digital signature, acknowledging that you have received this critical alert. It helps us track how far the intel is spreading. And third, sound off. We need intel from the ground. Report your status in the comments below. Are you running a vulnerable kernel, or have you already patched? We are assessing the blast radius in real time, and your input here is absolutely crucial. Okay, comms check complete. Let's move to the deep dive. We're going straight to the source of the problem, a single, flawed line of code in the Linux kernel. This is it. This one line lives in a function called create_elf_tables, which, by the way, runs every single time a program is executed. Now, RGC is simply the number of command line arguments, and envc is the number of environment variables. The variable items is what's called a signed integer, which means it has a maximum positive value. The vulnerability is that an attacker can control RGC and envc and just feed the program too many arguments. Now, this is where the math just completely breaks. Under normal conditions, items is a large positive number, and the kernel correctly allocates memory on the stack. But in the attack, the attacker throws the maximum possible number of arguments at it, causing the calculation to overflow. The number literally wraps around from the largest positive integer to the largest negative one. And because the kernel then subtracts this negative number, it's actually performing an addition. So the stack pointer, instead of moving down to create new space, shoots up, pointing right back into memory the attacker just supplied. And just like that, they can hijack the execution flow. So, the million-dollar question: who is in the line of fire? Let's define the blast radius and the specific target profile for this exploit. This vulnerability specifically hits major enterprise distributions that, for whatever reason, failed to backport a critical fix. We're talking RHEL and CentOS versions 6 and 7, and Debian 8. The exploit requires a 64-bit kernel and a system with a decent amount of RAM, more than 16 gigs, and the public proof of concept needs 32. Now, what might have seemed like a lot of memory back in 2018 is pretty standard for enterprise servers today, which ironically makes this threat more potent, not less. And remember, all the attacker needs to get started is local user access. And please don't for a second think this is some theoretical vulnerability sitting in a database. The Qualys detection score is currently 95 out of 100. A score this high means one thing and one thing only: active, in-the-wild exploitation and an extremely high-priority threat. Threat actors are using this right now. Okay, now for the most important part of this briefing, your action plan. These are your immediate countermeasures. Do not delay. Your action plan has 3 steps. 1. Mitigate. If you absolutely can't patch this second, apply a temporary fix by reducing the system's hard stack limit. 2. Remediate. This is the real solution. Apply the official kernel updates from your vendor. This closes the hole for good. 3. Verify. Vulnerabilities like this love to hide in your base images, your VM templates, and your container registries. You have to scan and update them, or you'll just redeploy the exact same problem next week. Let's be perfectly clear on the difference here. Mitigation is a stopgap. It's a tourniquet. It starves the exploit of the resources it needs to run. It's effective, but it is just a bandage. Remediation, applying the kernel patch like RHSA 2018-14748, that's the cure.
It fixes the broken code at its source. Prioritize remediation. So finally, let's address the big question. Why are we issuing a major alert for a 2018 vulnerability now? Because in cybersecurity, old does not mean safe. In fact, its persistence is exactly what makes it so dangerous.
This timeline tells the whole terrifying story. The flaw was introduced way back in 2007. It sat dormant for a decade until a fix was committed to the mainline kernel in 2017. But critically, the enterprise distributions didn't apply it. In 2018, Qualys discovered it could be exploited and disclosed it. But the most important date on this entire slide is the recent one. This is when the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, added this very bug to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog.
A CSEC KEV listing is the ultimate validation. It is official confirmation that this vulnerability is not a history lesson. It is being actively and successfully used by threat actors in attacks right now. That is why we are here. The threat is current and the risk is real. So we'll leave you with this question. This vulnerability proves that age does not equal irrelevance in our world. It often means the exploit is just more stable, more reliable, and better documented. So how many other decade-old threats are still active on your network, just waiting for their moment? Fix this now. Stay secure.